Greetings and thank you to everyone for signing on to this McCarter at Home event. This is part of a kickoff of McCarter Theater's virtual programming for Princeton, New Jersey in the US. It's our attempt, woo-woo! It's our attempt as an arts and cultural organization to bridge the isolation gap that necessarily has to be instituted to flatten the curve. My name is Paula Alekson, and I'm McCarter Artistic Engagement Manager. It's my great pleasure to moderate this inaugural installment of the McCarter Alive in Conversation series. And it is such a treat, a delight, a privilege to be here virtually with very special guest, Mary McDonnell, and McCarter Artistic Director and resident playwright, Emily Mann, or as I like to call them, Miss Mann and Lady Bam.
So, yay!
Yay!
So great. No, but listen, I just got a text from my sister, Sally, who's watching, who said, so much fun. Go!
All right. Thank you, Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Already, great.
Hi, Judy. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Sally.
Oh, say hi to all your family members that are watching.
I know. Well, they're probably, some of them are there. So, yeah.
It's so great to see you both and to have you seeing one another. We're finding that these virtual events are helping us at last to connect with one another, which is great. And I thought we might start by giving you the opportunity to greet all of the folks in attendance on this Zoom webinar platform. You can't see them, but they can see you. There are they're joining us. We had over 270 registrations. We have people signing on as we're speaking already. These are local, regional, national, and international friends joining us today. Some of them are enjoying afternoon coffee. Others are having dinner and cocktails. The European Merry Girls are staying up late into the night and drinking wine.
I don't know how they stay up and drink. They put off.
And it's already Saturday morning for a few of our friends. So one of the questions most posed by our attendees is, where are you both? How are you? With whom are you quarantining? And how are your families? We'll get into the more philosophical existential discussions on the current crisis later. But Mary, where are you? How are you doing?
I'm very, very well, thank you. I'm healthy. I feel lucky and grateful. I'm quarantined with my husband, Randy, and my daughter, Olivia. And my son and his girlfriend are in the same town, but not in the same home. But we're all we're deeply invested in the Los Angelino brigade here. And we feel very lucky to be here because we feel very lucky about the people who are leading our community. So that's where we are, but we're good. And my whole clan, so far so good. All the McDonald's, yay! You're fine. You know, there's a lot of strength in the people around me. So that's how I'm doing. Thank you. How about you,
Emily? Where are you?
Well, I'm in Princeton. I'm in our house. I'm quarantined with my wonderful husband, Gary. Blessedly, we are well. Our entire family is well. It's far flung. Some are in Brooklyn, some are in DC, some are on the West Coast, but we're strong, we're happy, we're grateful every single day for that. Yeah. And also knowing that we have food on the table, we're enjoying cooking together, we walk around our yard to get, you know, a little bit of sunshine when the sun is out and a little bit of air. We're being safe, we're being vigilant, and we're hoping every day that the news of our loved ones who are in ICUs and in hospitals are going to keep on fighting. So we try to stay strong every day, and our hearts go out to all our friends who have lost their loved ones, and there are many. So again, we feel gratitude for what we have. We feel grief for those who've lost, and we also are feeling deeply connected with our different communities and are thankful for it.
Why don't we dedicate this event tonight to those who are struggling, those who are fighting,
Yeah,
those who
that
are
would be great.
supporting. I think let's just put that energy out there.
Yes, let's.
Our
And
loved
for
ones
those
and
who
our
are
heroes.
struggling, economically as well, who have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, and those things that were coming up, as well as what they were doing at the moment, to hold on. Yeah, thank you.
So I want to share with you the expression of delight from folks registering, thanking the both of you for doing this event. It was giving people something to look forward to. So know that the attendees surrounding us right now and watching in are very grateful. And also they avalanched me with so many questions, and I sort of took their questions and I've fashioned a conversational journey with somewhat of a focus on your friendship and your work as artistic collaborators. We're going to begin with the past, how you first met, then we'll jump to your most recent theatrical project, and then I want to hope into the future about your next post-COVID artistic collaboration. So we're going to end on that that moment of promise. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I think 4 hours of questions were submitted. I think Mary and Emily, if you wanted to take your show on the road, virtual or otherwise, or perhaps as some of the writers of questions wrote, you could write a dual memoir or a dual autobiography together. You have time possibly? Right quickly.
Oh, Paula, wait a minute. I don't have time. I have never in my life been as social as I am on Zoom. No, but think about it. I live in LA. So if I'm going to go have dinner with people in LA, I've got to plan out the hour in the car, the hour to do, the hair, the makeup, get dressed. None of that matters. Well, it did today, but, what I'm saying? And so it's like constant socializing. And this is exhausting.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's true. I get it. So hearkening back to your past together, Mary, could we start with you in the telling of the story of how you and Emily first met?
Okay.
Where, when, how of your initial encounter?
Okay, so I was a struggling, and I mean that, off-Broadway, off-Broadway actress, depending on the project. And I had some success in the Sam Shepard's Buried Child. So people became aware of me, and I had agents who finally started submitting me. Emily was doing a season at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And so they were casting for all these beautiful pieces they were doing there, mostly Shakespeare, I believe, right, Emily?
A lot of Shakespeare and all classic work, yep.
Right. So somehow I got an audition, and somehow I ended up, through the grace of God, I do believe, actually, that I got to audition for Emily Mann as opposed to one of the other directors who I'm sure were all men. And I was at a point in my career where I began to understand that I simply was not fitting into the role of ingenue. It just wasn't working. And so I picked a monologue from Winter's Tale that was way beyond me on every level, emotionally, like nothing. I wasn't ready for her at all, nor did I have the classical training, the skill set I needed to pull it off. But I said, you know what, damn it, I know I love this woman, and I feel what she feels, and so I'm just going to do her. And I walk in, and there's a woman sitting there with a bandana around her head, looking about 15 years old. Just adorable. And I was in front of a pier, and I right away relaxed. So I did this monologue, and it was a mess. But at the very end of it, I'll never forget, she just said, "Sit down. Who are you?" And we started this conversation. Is that how you remember it?
It is how I remember it. And I actually remember it, the character is Hermione.
Yeah.
And you were 20 years at least too young for her. But it was such, I mean, I had people coming in from Juilliard. They were all very well trained. Like, they all went to charm school and they all knew how to do their iambic pentameter, and they were all doing everything classically correctly, and nothing was going on inside. And Mary came in like an emotional tornado, and the waterworks started immediately. She was sobbing, she was keening, she was I mean, it was every single color of the emotional rainbow that one can get in 14 lines. And I just was blown away. I thought, oh my God, this is, you know, sort of a soulmate, someone I've been waiting to meet all my life. And in fact, though she's quite right, that was not going to be appropriate for the all classical band season. When my new play that I had written called Still Life was going to be casting only 6 months later, you know, Mare.
No, it was pretty fast.
I have to see this woman. And she came in, and the rest is history. I mean, she didn't even have to audition. She just, as soon as she read, it was like, oh, let's just work together for life. And that's how it started. Yeah.
Mary, what do you remember about Still Life, about the script, about being offered the role, if you would share?
I would. I had never read anything like it, and I was so astonished by the potential of speaking directly to the audience, the potential of coming through the fourth wall, not having a fourth wall, and allowing the moment interaction with the audience to be the story, the driving sort of, you know, the momentum. To me, that felt liberating, not frightening, because I still don't think I quite understand that I'm not in the same room with the audience, no matter what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's like very hard for me to create some kind of imaginary structure anyway. So to me, that was extraordinary. Plus, it was the first time in college, a little bit I experienced this, but it was the first time professionally where I felt like I was being asked to be part of a story that was truly relevant politically to our peers. And we got a chance to talk about Vietnam that we were all still recovering from. We still are, frankly, or maybe never did. So it was, I just couldn't believe it. I remember that. I remember going back to, I don't know where I was living at the time, because I was a gypsy. I never had a home. I never had a lease, so I would sublet all these. Do you remember that, Emily? I had like 13 apartments in 8 years. And
yeah, you never knew where you were. Yeah.
No, nobody knew where I was. I didn't know where I was. And so, and I remember coming back, though, at that time I had roommates, and I remember coming to them and saying, you are not going to believe what's happened to me. This is the greatest thing ever. And it turned out that it actually was. I think I knew how to act a little bit prior to that moment, but with Emily, I began to really learn how to act and how to craft a performance in a way that was organic to me, because she saw how I work. She saw it, she could see it, and she could nurture it. So I was very lucky.
Well, Emily, you were lucky too, right?
Because, no question. I was going to say, it's a mutual fan club of fortune. Mary showed me the play in a way that no one else could have. The play was a 3-person play about a Vietnam veteran, his wife, and his girlfriend. They were all from Minnesota. I'd been working at the Guthrie at the time, and this was all taken from hours and hours and hours of transcript. And I fashioned this piece that was built like traumatic memory, that they only spoke to each other a few times, but it's basically like a tribunal where they were bearing witness to the nation about what they knew about the war, both at home and in them. And what it meant was, if you're doing documentary work, and no one knew what that was, it was just sort of a new idea to even do this. to have people talking directly to the audience, to have it be real people's words, to have actors embody real people in this way, it meant you couldn't lie. It meant you couldn't do any sort of habitual actory things because no one would buy it. You were talking directly to them. And what happened after, because it was Timmy Neer, the great late John Spencer, and Mayer, all of them just dedicated, like no one I've worked with before or since, to that truth, to going for the truth. And also, you know, what Mary would do, which I found so thrilling, was I would just let her explore deeply inside of the words and the moments and the relationships. And Mary said, you know, there's a term that we use doing in Gloria that Mary said, you let me go diving for pearls. And she'll go deep down under the surface. You almost can't see her for a while. And sometimes she'll come up empty-handed. And sometimes she'll come up and pearls. And so I just found that with patience and shaping it and letting Mary work her way and Timmy her way and John his way, that these incredible pockets of gold, or, you know, I'm mixing metaphors now, but it was just all these fine things were being unearthed or gotten up from below the sea and come up that I had never thought of as the writer. But as a dramatist and as a director, it was like, oh my God, I've never seen that on stage before. So we were really breaking boundaries. We were young enough to be in some ways so fearless that we let ourselves take risks that, you know, a lot of people don't want to take when they get to a certain age or a certain stature. Although I have to say, working with Mary and Gloria, that is not true for Mary McDonnell. She is still diving for pearls. At least she does with me.
That's all I know how to do. I mean, really and truly, you learn how you work, right? And so you just do that, and hopefully. But yeah, I want to go back, Emily. How old were we? Do you have any idea?
Yeah,
or young?
When we
I
first
should say how
met,
young were.
how young. When we first met, we were 28.
Okay, so I want to point something out here. This was a 28-year-old woman who had written the play and was directing a play in a form that no one had ever done, who had the wisdom to let 3 really intense actors work their own way, she says very casually. There's nothing normal about a woman at 28 years old back then having the confidence and this sort of feminine wisdom to understand that that's where the performance, that's how the performances would blossom. They're not going to blossom out of some structure imposed on us by the way things are supposed to be. Right. But, you know, Emily, you knew that at 28. That's pretty remarkable, in my opinion. It's quite remarkable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I just think we got each other. Do you know, you understood me and I understood you, and it was just like, oh, okay, let's just go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did for about 4 to 5 years. You collaborated with one another before Mary got stolen away by Hollywood. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was your favorite projects with one another in those early years?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I will say that how many did we do?
We did
2 incarnations of
Dollhouse.
Doll's House. There was something about that journey, the 2 Dollhouse incarnations, that I felt during that time doing that play with Emily and the amazingly brilliant cast in both cases, that there was an how do I put this, a kind of a learning curve of feminism inside of that for me, that was that was an emotional feminism. It was like experiencing as Nora a completely innocent feminist journey. And because of it, and because Emily and I kind of understood it that way, I felt like I was able to act out what we knew theoretically, but didn't necessarily in our own lives either have to go through or really understand what other women were going through. We just sort of, we knew it theoretically, and I felt like to be able to spend those years on Doll's House changed me.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
Me too.
you know, and that's
Me too.
really valuable. That's kind of why part of what we do, for all of you amazing people out there, clearly we do this for you on some level, because you need to come and gather, and we need to share story. But what it does for us is just a gift. I mean, Emily, we've grown up making stories.
Yes, I know.
It creates a kind of foundation and a trust in the process, I think, that I see, like, you know, to bring it around to where we are right now in the days of COVID, we artists, we have to learn how to live with uncertainty. You know, we never know how long our project, you know, I mean, things can change on a dime. You could be ready to start rehearsal and the thing gets pulled. We were in a play together that opened on Broadway, and then we closed like that. And so they're having material to work out things in your own life as you mature, and also having the experience with close friends of surviving uncertainty, I think is a real gift from this point of view now. I think I just went a whole different way from whoever, but so just stop me, cut me off at any time.
No, it was perfect. I mean, what I'm interested in knowing is, how did your friendship survive sort of this, you know, going off into your separate careers, on separate coasts? And, you know, Emily, you eventually got the artistic directorship of McCarter, and you were really diving into your playwriting and doing freelance directorial work. And Mary, your amazing feature film career, and then these amazing network and cable series that you've done. And you had families and children and were working mothers. How were you able to stay in touch with one another, or did you stay in touch with one another? How obviously the connection was formed and solid from the very beginning. What was your what was the nature of your friendship during sort of the second act? And we'll talk about the third act in a minute.
Well, it's so interesting because the first act was so intense, and I guess I thought, oh, we'll bring up our children together, we're going to grow old together. And then I became a working single mother, needed to be one place for my wonderful son, and just decided I either need to, you know, become a teacher, and then I won't keep going as a playwright and director, or run my own theater. So that's what I did, and McCarter was such a blessing. So when I came here to McCarter, Mary was off on the West Coast forging a whole other life in, you know, film and television, and I would frequently reach out and say, oh, can you do this, or can you do that? And she was never free, and never free, and never free. But, you know, there are some people where it's sort of, you're imprinted like family from, you know, you forge such a strong friendship that when we would get back together, when we would see each other, it was really more like filling in the details of what was going on, you know, not restarting a friend, you know, it was very deep, the connection. I'm talking about from my point of view. And then finally, you know, end of the second act, when I knew that it was going to be my last season, and I said, I'm just going to, I was going to say, throw a Hail Mary.
Literally, no pun.
And I thought, okay, this is our last chance. Mary playing Gloria with me would be like too much to ask the Lord for, right? I mean, just too much to ask. But I just decided, hell, and I texted her. I didn't go through ages. I didn't do anything properly. I just went, Mayor, I've written a new play. It's so right for you. Oh my God. And it happened. She read it.
Oh, you read it first?
Oh no, I said, well, I should read it. I want to say yes. I was in my car. I'm at a red light. I'm looking at text, which you're not supposed to do, but sometimes the red lights are long in LA, and I thought, oh my God. But here's what had happened though, Emily, remember? Sometime during that year, we met in Paris. I'm going to say very casually, like we do all the time.
Right.
We met in Paris one day, and it wasn't like that at all. It was a lot of effort. And you told me about the play because you were doing it in New York. So I knew about Gloria, and I wasn't able to go see it.
Right.
So Emily was doing it at Princeton. I already had at least some, background on it. So I could have said yes at the red light, but I said to her, experience has shown me that I actually have to read it first. So please send it to me. And then it was, no, of course, yes. I mean, and it all worked out because Emily, referring to the times that she reached out and offered things, and I literally couldn't do it. And it was not always because I was busy. It was because I couldn't manage my life and leave it and go to the East Coast, raising children, flying back and forth to Vancouver to work on a spaceship for years. I mean, I think we lost a little contact when I was on the Galactica.
Yeah. When you were rocketing through space, we did lose contact. That's true.
I think I lost contact with everyone. I have a kind of a funny story about that, Emily. I don't know if I ever told you this, but it harkens to working mothers in the theater and in entertainment. So I was in Vancouver, Canada, and we were shooting Battlestar. And Michael was in elementary school in LA. And Randy was in between jobs. So he was home, and we had a nanny. And I think Olivia was in middle school or high school. Anyway, I was in a van, and it was rush hour because we were going to an all-night shoot on location. And we were in a blizzard. So your rush hour, Vancouver, Canada, in a blizzard, the windshield wipers are... We're driving along, me and the driver. I'm going to work to begin work for the night, and my cell phone rings. And I say, oh, goodness, it's the principal of Michael's school. And I answer the phone. I go, Carol, hi. And she goes, hi, Mary, how are you? And I said, I'm fine. How are you? She goes, I'm good, but we're here trying to close the school, and Michael's still sitting on the curb with his backpack, and it's about 5 o'clock. I said, Carol, I'm in a van in Vancouver on my way to a spaceship in the snow. I can't come get him. There had just been a simple miscommunication as to who was, and it was a neighbor who was going to pick up Michael that because Randy had to teach a class. It got confused. So we fixed it right away, but it's the kind of thing that happens when you're a traveling working mom in every profession for sure. But I actually said out loud, Carol, I'm in the snow in a blizzard on my way to a spaceship, without kind of thinking what I just said to the principal of my son's school.
Hopefully she watched the show.
Huh? Well, I don't
watch the show.
No, I don't think she knew what I
had no idea what you're talking about. Right?
Well, she should.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No.
Emily, I wonder if we could go back just a bit so that you could tell the story of how you came to write Gloria Life and sort of the experience of putting it up off Broadway, and then I'd like to bring Mary back in to talk about creating.
Right. Well, I was walking through the Princeton campus, and my phone rang, my cell phone, and I picked it up, and it was, hi, this is Gloria Steinem. And I went, oh, hi. And Kathy Najimy, her dear friend. And said, and I had met Gloria a couple of times before, but I didn't know whether she would remember me, but clearly she did. And she said, well, my friend Kathy has convinced me I should do a one-woman play about my life called Gloria Live on Broadway, and we just would love you to write it. What do you say? And unlike Mary, I didn't say, oh, let me go home and think about it, which within 100th of a second, I had nothing to read. I just went, of course, oh my God. Gloria was, I don't know if you feel this way, Mary, but I could not have the life I've had without Gloria Steinem.
Correct.
She gave me the permission and she was sort of the beacon where we could say, oh, you know, she can do that, I can do that. She's saying no to this, I can say no to this. I mean, just opened up a world of opportunity for women when we were all told, no, you can't do that. I mean, I don't know if you know the story that when I was graduating from college and I was sort of the, you know, little star director, playwright, even at that point actress, but running the student drama program. And I was going to be graduating, and my friends, all of them guys, which I hadn't really noted before, they were trying to decide, oh, am I going to be a movie director and go to LA, or am I going to go, you know, to New York and be a theater director and writer? And so I asked my advisor, I said, you know, I'm trying to figure out whether I should do film or whether I should do theater. And he looked at me with such pity and he said, oh, my dear, I should have told you earlier, you may be quite talented, you know, but women can't direct professionally or write professionally in this country. You really should think about children's theater. Now, I have nothing against children's theater. In fact, I adore children's theater, but it wasn't anything I was terribly good at or particularly wanted to do. And I was basically told, you can't have the life you now lead. And I remember the top of my head just exploded with rage. And I thought, no, I'm going to, you know, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I'm going to. And so I decided not to go to the East Coast or the West Coast. I decided to apprentice at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, where I applied and got the first fellowship in directing at the University of Minnesota and the Guthrie. And I arrived there, and the artistic director of the Guthrie Theater said to me, British man, very looks at me and said, well, you know, dear, that, you know, women can't direct professionally. The only two that do it in England, and well, what are you? You have to be either hysterical or a dyke. Which are you? And I said, both.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He looked at me and mad. He said, aha, great. Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to audition for me because you cannot take this directing fellowship. You'll be an actress. I said, I don't want to be an actor. I want to be a director. And he made me audition. I auditioned. He said, you're really quite good. You know, you really should be doing this. I said, no, I'm here. I got this fellowship. I'm going to do this fellowship. And he allowed me to do it. And eventually, after testing me in a brutal way for 2 years, I got through. But it is at that time, women couldn't do a lot of things. And it's so interesting because when we were doing Gloria together, when I first started it in New York, and it became first, let me just tell you what happened. I met with Gloria and Kathy, then the Lincoln Center decided to commission it. We went into workshop with it, and eventually Diane Paulus came on board, and we made an ensemble piece out of what had started out as a one-woman show.
It was originally going to be Gloria playing herself, correct?
Yeah, but Gloria realized after the first, the first workshop we did it. It was, you know, the same kind of video and all this fabulous stuff, but she was playing herself, and it was amazing. It was just breathtaking. And she finished doing it, and she said to me, "I'd rather die than do that again." She said, "I have so much respect for actors. I have so much respect for people who can repeat it and do it over and over and over again." She said, "But the bizarre thing is I'm not an actress." And just imagine if you were me and you had to sit and remember your mother's death and manufacture tears every night. She said, I can't pretend to be me. It is the most bizarre experience of my life. And she said, I can't do it. And then she felt so guilty because she thought, I'm killing this project. Emily's been working on it for over 2 years. And she went out with our producer, Daryl Roth. And Daryl said, don't worry, Gloria, we'll find an actress to play you. And she went, oh, and suddenly it became a whole new thing. And then we got Diane on, and she decided it shouldn't be a one-woman thing. If Gloria wasn't going to be playing her, why have another one-woman play, a sort of bio one-woman event? Let's find another way of telling a story. And then Diane came on, and we got an ensemble going, and we began to work on that. And Andre Bishop did not have, the artistic director of Lincoln Center, didn't have a space for it in his season. He said, well, you could do it on Monday nights as sort of readers' theater. And Diane said, I don't think so. If you know Diane Paula, you realize that's like, no, this will not work for me. People got to be moving. I got to have music. I got, you know. And so so Daryl said, well, Lincoln Center isn't the only theater in New York. And she brought it down to her own theater, the Daryl Roth Theater on Union Square. We opened it off Broadway. It was a big success. And then I said, oh, well, I want to do it as my final show at McCarter. And that's why I got it to McCarter. And Diane agreed that I should, you know, direct it at my own theater. And I got to ask my dear Mary, and she said yes. And off we went to the races. So that's how it happened at McCarter.
Mary, you referred to this opportunity as an incredibly magical, perfect moment. It was Emily's final season. It was written in direct address, very similar to Still Life. You got to play an icon, and you were available.
Yeah.
What was it like for you reuniting with Emily again after so many years, returning to the stage in live performance in a direct address role, and then playing this feminist icon who's a living legend, who, I might add, attended one of your performances, and you were directly addressing her? What was that like for you?
Well, performing Gloria in front of Gloria. And I'm going to preface this because this is the honest truth. I went to college in the 70s. So just keep that in mind when I say that performing Gloria in front of Gloria was like doing acid. It was like out of body, total. I would take a step and I couldn't feel my foot hit the ground. And I thought that my body was going like this every time. And my voice sounded like, hurrah. And then I thought, this is a nightmare. I am going to completely humiliate and let down this entire cast, and Emily and Gloria, and everybody in the audience can see Gloria is here. And this whole thing went through me. Now, this probably all happened in a matter of 30 seconds, but it seemed like we were already at the end of the play, by the time. And I looked at Gloria, and she just leaned in and went,
Oh.
And I remember, I was so startled. And it just went away. And then I couldn't take my eyes off her. So it'd be like, I'd throw a line at her like, you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean? And she, by the end of it, was kind of sitting there like, yeah, I get it. Okay, stop calling attention to me. But it was a beautiful thing. What was it like the timing of this event was kind of extraordinary. I don't think I would have been ready to play Gloria Steinem before I played her, not in the way that we played her. I had been through a lot in my life and in my work. I'd learned a lot about leadership in the roles that I played. And I'd changed a lot over the years. And I'd also, I have to say, and I explained this to Emily, you know how we did these extraordinary, for all of you who didn't see it, the second act was this beautiful Gloria Steinem talking circle where the audience would offer their experience of the play and we would engage. And I was very comfortable in that part of the play as well because I'd spent a decade doing conventions all over the world out of the experience of Battlestar Galactica. And I got very comfortable with dealing directly with audiences, ideas, and feelings, and the process of being present. And so it felt beautifully timed. And I trusted that. Plus, I'm not sure what I would have felt about taking that project on if it hadn't been Emily. I think I would have been less open, you know, immediately. It would have taken me longer to understand what I felt was Gloria Steinem's emotional journey. But with Emily, I felt a kind of confidence and trust in the room. It's just there. So it was kind of that whole getting to know the person and wondering what kind of risk taking you can go through in the first few weeks of rehearsal. We didn't have to go through that dance. So I just felt very lucky. I still do. I feel very lucky and blessed about the whole thing. And I feel that the timing of it was also kind of had a halo around it. Yeah. I know, maybe it was a Hail Mary, a real one. I don't know. But we really were very blessed to be able to do it together and to do it at this time in the world too. And to understand through all the talking circles that so many young women who were actually in the world, you're all out there, I know you are, and you're in the world and you're working these incredibly high-powered jobs and stuff, but there's still these vestiges of patriarchy. And so the exposure of all of that and the conversation, it just became a gift. I felt like it, Emily, I think you felt this too. I felt like we were launched together into our third act.
I agree. I don't think, I mean, it's really important for me to be ending on on July 1st of this year. I didn't quite expect the last few months to be like this, but it's important. But I don't think I could have been facing it with such joy and buoyancy and resilience if I hadn't worked with Mary on my last show. I mean, that's what made it possible for me, that event, I was like, yes, I can, and my artistic work at the theater because of this. And it also ended the McCarter journey, but as Mary said, it's going to launch us into our third act. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Mary, I'm so glad you brought up the talking circles for folks who are joining us that didn't have an opportunity to see a performance or experience a performance. Ilaria from Rome asks you both if there was a story shared during the talking circles of Gloria life that either touched you in a particular way or has stayed with you.
Well, there's one that immediately comes to mind for me, which was that there was, I think she was 11 years old, and it was opening night. And she was there with her mom. I think you may know the mom, Paula, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I do.
And this young lady got up and she said, and help me if I'm paraphrasing this less, she was so eloquent and simple, and I'm not sure I'll get this right, but she basically said how wonderful it was to have watched the play and experienced this play, and that she is trans, and that she is proud of who she is, and she is so supported by her mom, and she felt very supported by the evening and the audience, and the whole place just was losing it. They were so incredibly moved by her, and so celebratory of her. But there were moments like that all the way through these talking circles where people felt they could, when asked, how does this story resonate with your story, that people would come out and tell us the most amazing things. And the other one was Connie Mercer, who runs an extraordinary organization for homeless women and children called Homefront. And she said that she had expected she would have a very different response, and that she was going, in fact, she was one of our, what we call first responders, someone who would help start the talking circle. And she'd sort of semi-prepared something, she told me. And then what happened was she was so blown away by Mary and the company and the story that she, in a very emotional way, said that her first job interview was in Boston, and she went up to, the State House, and she was waiting to have her first job interview, and she was raped in the governor's office. And then she said, I can't believe I'm saying this. And they were so, we're a small community. We all love and know Connie, and she revealed that to all of us. And we had people who were talking about when they all had to have, so many people had to have abortions illegally, and women I know who were on my board would say that that happened to them. Just amazing, not, people just sharing really deep things that they've never shared before. That's one of the things that hits me hardest.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to talk that long. I'm so sorry, but I did.
You can talk
for
forever.
waves.
Oh, stop, please.
I just want to share. I just want to share as a little commercial that McCarter's community partner is a local Princeton, New Jersey bookseller, Labyrinth Books. They are stocking copies of the published version of Emily's play with a foreword by Gloria Steinem. It was published last fall by TCG Theater Communications Group. You can call and order a copy, free shipping in the continental US. They're still sending out books. They're not able to welcome people into their shop for sales, but they will even arrange for it to be brought to the curbside if you're local. So regardless, this is the book. Support your local booksellers, please. They need you now. And we thank Dorothea and the folks from Labyrinth for their partnership.
Yes, thank you, Dorothea.
That was good, Paula.
Thanks.
Thanks,
I have another
Paula.
spotlight. We've got a beautiful little note from Hanara in Spain. Hanara is 10 years old. And I thought we would spotlight Hanara's questions for you before going on. Her question to you, Emily, is would you like to do a second part of Gloria? And would you choose Mary as Gloria again?
I would choose Mary to play Gloria again, as well as so many other parts. Yes, of course I would. I would be, I don't even dare hope to be that fortunate, but yes, I would love to do that. Thank you for asking. That would be amazing.
Second question, Mary and Emily, Hanera writes, I know that you are very good friends. What advice would you give to young people like me so that we can have friends for life despite distance and anger? How is that type of friendship achieved?
I want to say hello, Hanera. I've met Hanera in Europe, and she's a beautiful, delightful, really brilliant young woman, and she's a great mom. So hello to both of you. I think what I can tell about you, Hanera, from your communication is that you're already doing the thing that's the most important to find your tribe, which is you are in the world participating and communicating who you are. And I think that is the way you find real long-lasting friendships, is that you risk exposing who you are and what you're committed to other people, and you will find reflection. And those are the friendships, I think. I think that's how, certainly that has been my experience.
I should also note that Hanera wanted to send you an early birthday message, Mary. She says,
Okay.
happy birthday. May life always give you the best. Never stop being you. Thank you. And I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Can I just say something right now, since she so beautifully brought up my birthday? Many of you out there know, do you mind if I do a little commercial?
No, please,
Okay.
Mary.
Many of you out there know this because you've been doing it for years, but years ago, a group of fans developed a fundraiser around my birthday. Every year, funds are raised as donations towards a cause that's important to my heart. That's changed and evolved over the years. For a while, we were donating pretty consistently to Santa Gleska on the Rosebud Reservation. This year, the group, it's called Inspired by Mary. On Twitter, it's @Inspired by Mary. On Facebook, Inspired by Mary. Please go to the website. They've created opportunities for anyone in honor of my birthday to donate, either in these remarkable COVID-19 situations, or if you choose to donate locally to your own community's response team or whatever.
Oh, that's great.
And it just has a feeling inside of it this year that is so uplifting and so beautiful. And I feel they've got the wording wrong because they call it Inspired by Mary, but really, in fact, it should be Mary's Inspired by. Donate here, because they have continually inspired me to the idea that this happens every year. It's just really quite extraordinary. So if someone out there is looking for a community right now through which to engage in your experience of the pandemic, and you're looking for a place to participate and be a part of a group participation, please come visit Inspired by Mary. They're great. Anyway, all right, that's mine.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you for that. And that's the perfect segue, actually, Mary. A number of people asked about future collaborations, as Hanera did. Are you going to do Gloria Life again? And sort of all of this sort of feels like a moot point right now, or an impossible point, given the COVID-19 crisis. And I'm wondering if you both could talk about the impact on you personally and professionally, and specifically as with everyone attending this event, your lives, our work has been interrupted. What were you working on when the shutdown orders came? What happened? How are you coping? And what are you thinking about? What have you been doing artistically, or are your attentions otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Right before the pandemic, I had been offered a project that I still can't talk about, so I can't name it yet. But I was headed back to Vancouver, and it was pretty exciting. And I felt it was incredibly relevant to the reality that we were in. So it felt important to me to do. I was excited by it. I was supposed to start working on September. I did it again, Paula. I keep making the leap to September because I have this feeling that September will be glorious, and it won't be normal, but we'll be sort of in a new normal, and we'll be able to touch, maybe. I don't know. But I was supposed to start filming on St. Patrick's Day. And so that's March 17th, correct? So I was supposed to fly March 14th. And then on March 10th or 11th, I got a second offer to shoot in Vancouver simultaneously a brand new pilot and subsequent episodes this summer. And they were already talking about how they would share the time, the two entities. And so that contract hadn't even really been, we were just at the beginning, and the other one was just about ready, and I was set to go. And on Thursday, the 13th, we spoke to them about what the protocol would be. What would they do with Mary the Elder in Canada if the set went down? Where would they put me to quarantine? Would they let me come home? They found out from the Canadian government that no, in fact, even if I came up, they'd have to put me in a hotel room for 2 weeks before I could shoot. So they started to change the whole schedule. Well, by 24 hours later, they had moved the schedule, and then by Monday, both shows shut down completely. I still have part of my suitcase packed because I thought that would be good luck. So it was a really interesting, do you like my sound effects?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. It really did feel like you were on the tarmac and the plane turned around. Yeah. So I had the beginning of working on material that was going to take up a good bit of time of my life. And I was focused there. And so we'll see. And what have I been doing creatively since then? I have been not doing a lot creatively since then. I've been doing a lot of communicating, which has been wonderful. I'm just beginning, I think, Emily, you mentioned this, the first couple of weeks, I felt surprised, very frankly, by how frightened I was. I was really surprised by it. I was, in the very beginning of this, I was so frightened by the virus itself, the idea of it. And for the first time in my life, I experienced that I was part of the vulnerable population. And I immediately started to feel vulnerable physically in a way that I'm not used to, really and truly. And that was fascinating to try and get a handle on. But it was all about organizing then. It was all about how do we learn how to do what we do? How do we keep washing our hands? My skin's falling off. What? Oh, I have to cook? I have to cook all the time? Me? Oh God, that kind of thing. So it was all about that. And then it keeps changing. And I feel like now I'm finally settled in a little bit more into my own body again. And I'm learning how to process the sadness and the grief better that I feel on a daily basis for all of the humans that we are watching leave and watching their families suffer. And I'm getting better, I think, I hope, I pray, at processing this. And now I'm feeling the creative part of me is starting to enact again. That's kind of been my process. How about you, Emily?
Boy, where to start? It's interesting. I had a similar sense of being on the runway, and we all were at McCarter. We were in the midst of opening a fantastic production of Anthony Sather's Sleuth, directed by my brilliant mentee, Adam Immervar. It was an absolutely superb production. Our shops had outdone themselves. It looked spectacular. People were adoring it.
I heard you had amazing wigs.
You're right. We did.
Yeah.
We knew. Oh, you heard from Clarissa?
Well, yeah, because I've been through the wig thing there. Genius.
True.
Yeah.
Genius, actually.
Yeah.
So I remember meeting on the Thursday morning when people were getting more and more worried, and I kept thinking, well, can we make it till Saturday? Let's try to make it through to the opening so that we can, celebrate Adam and this incredible production. And Thursday morning, we had decided yes, we'll try to make it through Saturday. I went to the Thursday night preview. It was almost sold out in terms of ticket sales, but only about 300 people showed up.
Wow.
We thought, oh, this is not going to happen. The next morning, we all met and we were hearing that Broadway was going to close down Friday night. We thought, well, this is becoming an ethical dilemma. I mean, about are we endangering people by staying open? By Friday noon, we knew we had to close and not do the show that night for an audience. And then we got in touch with our videographer to come in and to an empty house, or 70 people were going to show up, heavily socially distanced. I don't remember, Paula, whether it was Saturday night we did that shoot or Friday night.
I think it was Friday night.
And then we captured it just in case it could ever be used. And we shuttered the theater. And we didn't know
Everything's
for how
still
long.
there. The set's still there.
The set's still on the stage.
Oh, that's haunting.
It is.
We closed the building. We closed down, and we all went into self-imposed quarantines. And started huddling about what we were going to do, and coming to grips with how this would impact McCarter, and particularly the profession at large. And every day we examine that further. It's been heartbreaking to see how hard it's going to be, both on the institution and on the individuals within it. And as you know, a theater is not bricks and mortar. A theater is its people. Our staff is one of the greatest staffs in the country. I spent so many years and years and years working to build this staff, and each one of these staff members have helped build McCarter into the great theater it is. And to think that not only is my 30 years over, but we don't know how much we can keep it all together, given the financial horror we're in and the chaos of the federal government. We just found out yet again that the small business loan that we applied for wasn't processed, and the fund has run out of money. It's just one nightmare after another. So I've been working around the clock, trying to save the theater, trying to save the staff, their employment and benefits. It's a hard battle. And also working with Paula, who's here, and the rest of our staff to go as virtual as we can. And thank you, Mary, for launching our first, what are we calling this series, Paula?
This is called McCarter Live in Conversation.
McCarter Live in Conversation, Mayor. So to be doing it and inaugurating it with you is just so fantastic. It's taken a lot of energy and a lot of vision and a lot of hard work to get our classes and our wonderful artists to come together and share and give back to our community that is so starved for connection and things theatrical and things artistic. It's only been recently that I've been able to focus so that when I have any gaps, and we seem to be in Zoom meetings all of the time, or I'm on the phone with the board, or I'm on the phone with funders, or but I've been writing a new musical with Lucy Simon, who wrote Secret Garden, and she's Carly Simon's sister, and Carly's been doing some of the lyrics with us, and it's a love story, and it's just so hopeful and beautiful, and that sustains me when I have an hour free, or I'll be writing. And I'm finding that I'm creatively alive in that way. Yeah. And that I'm actually loving, when I'm not dealing with the pain of what others are going through. I feel so blessed to be in my home with my husband and cooking and writing, and it's sort of like making the transition to my post-McCarter life a little earlier and easier, I hope. But of course, I I worry about our profession. When are we going to ever be all able to gather again? When are we going to be able to create our work in a rehearsal room? Unless we're doing a play about social distancing, what about a love scene? What about, how do we, physically relate to each other to create the work? Honestly, how is what we're doing now virtually and creating virtually, how is that going to inform the form of how theater is being made? Is there some kind of hybrid that's being organically grown here? Will we find a new way to share our work with each other that isn't film and isn't television? It's still theater, but somehow we're able now to reach people internationally and nationally, like we're doing tonight, in a new way. So all these, lots of questions, no answers, but I think often out of some of the worst tragedies, and some of the worst horrors that our planet has ever gone through, out comes some beauty sometimes out of the pain. And I'm seeing people helping each other in ways I've never seen before. That kind of gratitude towards the people on the front lines, in the hospitals, the nurses, the firemen, the first responders, the people in the grocery stores, the kindness that people are showing to each other thrills me. And then I also look at, perhaps this is a great rehearsal for our understanding that we're all one planet, and we have to look at climate change. We have to look at global communication, and that we, as human beings, are all one. And it, I don't mean to sound like Pollyanna, but I do already see a shift in how people are thinking, that everyone deserves health care, for example. That there is a kind of distaste for those who don't believe that this is something that every great democracy should be offering its people. I mean, this is that I think there are hopeful things, shifts in attitude that I'm hoping will make for a healthier planet in the long run. I on my good days, I look for the positive in all of this.
That's beautiful, Emily. I just have one question about the musical. I just wondered if you are writing a part for an older woman who doesn't sing very well, but it doesn't matter because she's so funny.
Oh, in fact.
You know what I mean? Couldn't you just you know what I mean? Right?
Uh-huh.
You know how you, I remember when I first saw my first Broadway play, I think it was A Little Night Music. I can't remember who the actress was. She couldn't really sing a note, but she killed it.
She killed it. Absolutely.
And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, make a note, Mary. Get to ask Emily, even though I did love everything.
Note taken. Oh, well, that's very inspiring, Mary.
Now, I want to ask a question. If you all would mind if I honored one of our potential vice presidential candidates while we are on. Paula.
Please.
Paula, is that okay?
I'm looking at my artistic director, and she's shaking her head yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I just want to say a word. We're in this incredible moment for women, actually. I mean, the fact that we are going to have a woman vice presidential candidate in the Democratic Party, and that there is an extraordinary pool of women available and ready to do this. We need to see this clearly and understand how powerful this moment is. But I really was so struck by an article I read yesterday that it was an interview in Elle with Stacey Abrams. And I wanted to read this to all of us if you hadn't read the article. When asked if she was offered the VP, what would she say? I'm gonna read her quote. I was just astonished by it. She said, "Yes, I would be honored. I would be an excellent running mate. I have the capacity to attract voters by motivating typically ignored communities. I have a strong history of executive and management experience in the private, public and nonprofit sectors. I've spent 25 years in independent study of foreign policy. I am ready to help advance an agenda of restoring America's place in the world. If I am selected, hold on, I had to get back to this because I couldn't move it. If I am selected, I am prepared and I am excited to serve. And the reason I wanted to read this is because, do you realize how far we've come, speaking of Gloria Steinem, that we have this young, relatively young woman of color with that kind of confidence and experience and leadership and connection to the people of this country and what needs to happen. And she doesn't even, she doesn't demur and say, oh, well, if I'm asked, that would be lovely, but I don't really want to talk about it. She went boom. Boom. And I want everybody to know it, because that speaks so highly of where we are as women. And that to me was a bit of a shining light in the middle of all of this. So thank you for indulging.
No, thank you. And that's actually also a callback. You have a podcast, Lady Bam Podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I think right now is the perfect time to continue that.
We are.
If I may. Okay, great. And
yes,
you actually had a wonderful a full show with Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her. So I call back to our audience to say you'll definitely want to go to ladybam.podcast.com.
Thank you. Yeah, Nina. To
see that and to see, was it Ellen Barkin that you're
Ellen is one of the people I'll be talking with. Yesterday, I just had a wonderful interview with Marina Sirtis from Star Trek. We've got a lineup right now, and it's going to be very, very interesting. You know who we're talking to? We're talking to Lisa, the artistic director at the Women's Project.
Lisa McNulty.
Yes.
Do you know that she was my intern at McCarter, and that I'm just a huge, of course you do. Yeah, I'm just a huge supporter of hers. She's just phenomenal. Well, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, and sort of along the lines of what you're doing here, Paula, and you're doing, Emily, I think Nina and I are going to start, this podcast has been this kind of unruly, spontaneous, don't follow the rules situation, but we're starting to see that we are actually developing sort of categories, as it were. Mm-hmm. So I need to speak to Emily Mann about being a female artistic director, and Lisa, and I want to speak to Diane Paulus at Harvard, and I want, that will be, you know what I mean? We're starting to see where these women are lining up in these podcasts in ways that I feel will help support us for a while. We're enjoying doing it, so thank you.
Such a pleasure. I turned Emily onto it myself, I'm proud to say.
Yes, you did, Paula. I'm very happy you did.
We have sort of run up out of time. I know.
Oh, yes.
So thank you. You've stayed on longer. There's a few things that I want to say. First, Emily, a number of our attendees expressed sadness that you're having to end your final season as the artistic director under such circumstances. So I'm glad you spoke on that. But
thank you.
Warm spirits are reaching out to you.
Regarding it means so much to me. Thanks.
Yeah. Mary, I just can't thank you enough for kicking this off with us. And
my honor.
Such a pleasure. And I can't thank the audience enough for joining us. I would like to say that McCarter Theater Center will continue to reach out to its audience and communities through McCarter at Home programming. Every Monday, we will share out information on our upcoming education classes, virtual community play readings, live artists and conversation events, behind the scenes interviews and archival footage from some of our favorite past productions, and we'll suggest fun at home activities and hopefully inspire you in your own art making. And our goal is to keep communicating with you and to be a source of light and human connection during these challenging and concerning times. Our next McCarter Live in Conversation event is going to happen next Friday, April 24th. This time, it will begin at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Emily will be joined by internationally acclaimed playwright and McCarter favorite, Ken Ludwig. Emily most recently directed Ken's adaptation of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. But next week, the conversation will be focused on Ken and Emily's mutual love for the works of William Shakespeare, and on Ken's Falstaff Award-winning book, How to Teach Your Children Shakespeare, which is a book not just for parents and kids. I actually have it here. And it is also being supplied in many copies from Labyrinth Books. So I hope folks will reach out to Labyrinth for this book as well. It's so enjoyable. And also, one last plug, on Tuesday, April 28th, Mary, mark your calendar. We're not going to be reading Hermione, but I've gotten Emily into the Shakespeare Community Reading Group, which McCarter hosts.
You didn't have to talk to me about what an actress Emily is.
Oh, I did mention, right? Emily was with us for our most recent readings of Macbeth, and she was amazing.
I know she is, because remember she played me playing Gloria when I lost my voice? We were on the stage together and she performed the role and I sort of channeled it with her. You know what I mean? I know
was
what
one of the most incredible experiences of my theatrical life.
Of anyone's theatrical life.
Yeah, we were just having this incredible mind meld and just
and that's on the 28th, my birthday.
Well, I don't know. It will be what, 4 o'clock your time. On Tuesday, April 28th. What's fun about it is we have a whole group of people that sign up. We do a real Zoom room, and I'm directing this at our friends out in the audience. You sign up for a reading slot, or you can listen, and we're going to read the first half of The Comedy of Errors. It's great fun. We laugh a lot.
And who are you playing, Emily?
You don't know. Paula,
you don't?
We let fortune decide.
And it's gender blind. As you don't, I actually played Macbeth himself, the Scottish king, and Lady Macduff one night. It's just like,
I will also say, when you said, "Oh, I'm not a very good actress," and then Act 2, Scene 2, everyone, I was going through the Zoom room looking at people, and they were like, "She was incredible."
No. Emily is an actress. Part of the way Emily directs, which everyone absolutely cherishes, that she acts the role with you. Has anyone out there sat in an audience? I know Gary's out there and he has done it with you. Next to Emily, when she's watching her beloved actors do a play, she lives and breathes every second of it. You're a natural. You're a natural.
This is all to say, there's no experience necessary with Shakespeare. All are welcome. The more, the merrier. And that goes to our international audience as well. I'm going to close it out now just by thanking you both so much. You're such beautiful, loving women, beautiful spirits. And it makes sense that you're friends, but I think I can speak for everyone who signed in tonight, that you feel like friends to them, to us as well. So thank you for involving us in your friendship.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Please take good care. Everyone out there, be safe.
Be safe.
And
stay home.
Stay home, stay well.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Love you.
Love you too.
Love you,
Bye-bye.